A wave of disenchantment that was let loose late last night once James Sicily's tribunal suspension was upheld. It's a curiosity where we are with the dangerous tackle. It feels like a fine mess.
These are legal decisions and they're made primarily by administrators. They're not football people that are making these decisions.
Great tackle back on McCluggage after he lost the footy. Desperation from the skipper.
It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy if he gets suspended for that.
Some guys are going to get suspended and some are going to get off. I feel like it's just going to be like that all year.
And we will come out better the other side of this, but in the meantime, we're going to have some unlucky players.
The instruction from the tribunal, to be frank, is very confusing.
When I initially saw it, I thought it was just part of the game. It was a tackle that I thought was fair.
Brockman's probably the smoking gun here, isn't it? What sort of impact has he had on the rotation? To think that James Sicily had another option in that particular moment is ridiculous.
He was underneath the guy, and that's going to be the hardest one. We're teaching our players to roll as best they can to try to protect the player.
When he was upside down and on his head, James Sicily really should have known where he was and done better there.
I think we're getting in dangerous territory just with the fact that, some guys have got arms pinned, some haven't, some head hits the ground, some get up, take a free kick straight away. To be honest, I think there's a little bit of confusion.
They're trying to say, if you tackle a player in a split second and you realise that you have an arm pin, you've got to let it go before he hits the ground, irrespective of whose momentum's taking the player forward. Players can't do that.
The next instalment will be before the appeals board, but it won't be till Monday night when Hawthorn and James Sicily take their case to the next level. This was a really interesting case, Jordan. It was complex. Neither outcome was going to surprise me. You could either have gone... There was certainly cause to go with the biomechanist, is the impact that Brockman's arrival into the fray has and how it changes the mechanics and spins the tackle out of control. The tribunal went with what you have to regard now as a hardcore crackdown, as Sicily didn't release the left arm of McCluggage, and thus he was found ultimately culpable for what happened.
Yeah, I think what Chris Scott was saying was absolutely right, and also what Simon Goodwin was saying. I wish the AFL would come out and someone from head office and just say, hey, this is going to be a messy road. We understand that. We set out with the objective to try and eradicate this from our game. We admit we're not going to be perfect along the way. We need you to work with us. We need you to accept the fact that there will be some suspensions that we won't be happy with, but you've got to understand where we're trying to get to. So we need your help. We need you to work with us. But nothing's been said.
And then what they did send out got largely ignored.
Correct. Like, it's who from the AFL at the moment is the spokesman or spokeswoman to come out and educate the public, educate the clubs, rather than just sending out a video, to sort of calm everybody down and say it's not perfect, it's not going to be perfect, but we need you to understand why we're doing this, and we need you to work with us, rather than just pointing the finger from high up in the office.
So I don't imagine at the start of the year anybody would have forecast where we are, which is 21 suspensions for 29 weeks from the dangerous tackle. So I've never seen a crackdown in my time covering the game that was resulted in that sort of toll. So there are a few different aspects to that. Some are really clear-cut.
Yeah.
The ones that, and we re-watched a set of these today, the ones that make you wince have no place in the game. Then there's the tackles that are perfectly fine. And now we're trying to peel away what's in the middle. And I think Justin Longmuir made a good point, that we are in dangerous territory. Sometimes it's the arm pin, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's that. I think there's an element of that that's right. So either what's been asked is impractical or the players are slow to adjust. There's probably an element of both. You can see a level of adjustment, and these are a small number of tackles by percentage, but that is a spate by tribunal history in any crackdown I've ever seen. It does lack a voice from head office, not only to take the players and the clubs with them, but to take fandom along on what you articulated there. We understand the why more players joined the class action around concussion today. Yep. So we understand that. The how is really difficult. And what is the end point?
Yeah.
That hasn't... I don't think at the start of the year when this crackdown was launched, it would have been forecast that the toll would have been this. The tackling numbers are they're slightly up year on year. We're talking 2 tackles a game. So there's not that. Has the technique deteriorated dramatically year on year? I doubt that. So this is the shifting of parameters. And it's been a really difficult shift through 13 rounds.
Yeah, and I think, once again, people would be happy if the AFL came out and asked everybody to work with them. But you're right, we went back and watched mainly the 2-week ones because I wanted to see the more extreme versions of what's happened throughout the year. And nearly every single 2-week one, bar one, was, by watching it, a lot more dangerous than what James Sicily had done. And they were in control. They had both arms pinned, both took the players to ground, and their head hits the ground. Yet the result of the play being tackled wasn't as extreme as what Hugh McCluggage was.
That is the most graphic victim moment, isn't it? That's the one, neck and head into the ground. And I think those who were there, we all held our breath for about 60 seconds to try to figure out how bad it was. That's why I think the case could have gone either way last night.
Let's hope we don't get to the point where we just don't tackle. There might be some sides that are ahead of the game at the moment, Jared.
I don't think that's it. But trying to provide the right parameters, and so there's a consistency to this, but Chris Scott did call it out. So we are seeming to be adjudicating strictly on whether you manage to release an arm at the last second or not.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's practical and whether that's actually the threshold, I think that's a good debate.
Yeah, so tackle and pin one arm,
tackle
and pin one arm, and then you should be
You have to release it on the way down.
Yeah.
If you pin an arm, don't take to ground. So it could use a greater, this is our end point.
Yeah. I think if I was still a player, my mindset would be to not take the player to ground.
And maybe that is what we're driving towards.
Yeah. Yeah, because you take a risk. It's like the bump. If you decide to bump and you hit the guy and hit the player in the head, well, you leave yourself open. If you don't, well, you've done a good job this time, but they might get you next time.
Richmond's unhappy with the Ryan Mansell decision. They absolutely believe this isn't a bump, and they will go to the appeals board tomorrow night to try to have the 3 weeks overturned.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the split-second decision that Mansell had to make. The other way to approach is if you open yourself up and not brace yourself for contact, and then there might be all sorts of injuries for Mansell. So in a natural instinct to protect yourself, you put your shoulder in, you brace yourself. That is a bump. Now, he didn't mean it, but the last-second decision meant that it was a bump that hit the opposition player in the head.
And you're not entitled to leave your opponent in that state. So this is really serious concussion. We already know he's going to miss at least 2 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I look at that, and do I feel for Mansell? Yes, because players have been in that position a lot, and for fear of just protecting themselves, they've come out bumping a player high. But I mean, I'm still happy with that to be a suspension.
Yep.
Yeah.